All right, if everybody's good, 6:05 p.m., we'll call this workshop to order. And with that, Mr. Madden or Mr. Rhodes?
Thank you. I'll take it first. So first off, thank you, Ms. King, for stepping in the last council meeting and being prepared under.
I could wing that with my eyes closed.
Thank you for winning that appropriately for me. I appreciated that. And apologies for missing that council meeting. It's strictly a non-scheduled, non-conflict because I didn't even pay attention to it. So I was quite frankly sitting at home enjoying the evening. So my apologies for missing that.
Well, are we taping this or recording it? Okay, let the record reflect that all council people are present, along with myself, other than Mr. Crayland, who is going to attend via Zoom as soon as he gets to a dry spot, kind of thing. Also joining us is our Finance Director, Ms. Holly Abercrombie, and our City Administrator, Brandon. That's housekeeping, sorry.
Check that.
And for the record, on this day, I am thankful for my City of Greer umbrella that I obtained as swag back in February. Message over between Mr. Madden and I, because I have a total obsession with swag. And so he said we'd have umbrellas next time, so I guess I'm gonna have to get with somebody else, because I don't think the next city's on. I bet your city will have, coming up, will have umbrellas.
You'll probably have the great big golf umbrellas.
Yeah, they give away the whole tents actually. Of their swag.
River Water System has really good stuff too, by the way.
So this is our fourth budget workshop. And we got, obviously, the budget went through the last council meeting. We've got a great framework, but after talking to several of you, still a couple of housekeeping concerns. So that's why we're here. So I didn't have anything specific, but wanted to open the floor for individual or any concern that we'd like to bring forward. Now will be the appropriate time.
I think there was a discussion in one of them about reviewing our various fees. And Holly and Brandon put together a chart there for our reading pleasure. And I don't know if some of the things kind of stood out to me that we have an opportunity to maybe bring them closer to alignment, or at least document them. I think you would like to have a precise document that can be referenced in the future. Maybe if the ordinance needs to be amended, reference the document, it would contain all the fees.
Well, and to that point, what's not been done in the past, which has been done in the last two budget cycles, is actually including the fee schedule in the budget documents. We've never done that, or in our budget ordinance, we've never done that. So, but you're right. Now would be the appropriate time to visit them individually. So did you have specific ones, Mr. Mayor, that you
we had brought these up last time, and I think Mark was going to check on them, but the under the recreation department cheerleading fee, there was everything had an incremental between resident, non-resident, roughly $20, actually $20, except cheerleading fees, there was only $10 difference there. And I didn't write down an explanation other than uniforms paid by parents. That didn't go to my question, so I don't know where we're at with that one. Summer camp fees were a $25 differential between residents, non-residents. CD, so I was looking for $20 here all the way through it. So when it jumps out, other than that, I'm just asking. Heartburn about any of them, to be honest with you. Mentioned, I think, it's the sports center, the walking track only kind of thing. I think that one definitely should be looked at over this year, next year, whatever. $25 a year, it just jumps out that if that includes, at one time it included 2 exercise classes and the walking track. So, you know, $25 a year is quite a bargain. When we went to more recognized the silver sneakers, silver fit, there was another one. They reimburse us more than $25 a year, so it would behoove us to get everybody to transfer over to silver sneaker, silver fit, which gave access to the whole sports center. And then there's a different fees that they reimburse us based on attendance, exercise classes and whatever. And that could be up to, at the time we looked at it, the first time with silver sneakers, it was up to like $25 a month per member. There were some rules in there that you couldn't take back-to-back classes. They had to be a day between them and things like that. So I don't know where's that at. I know now there was, last time I talked to Suzanne, that was at the senior center. There was 3 different organizations that were recognized for reimbursement based on attendance. I know that's happening with Jimmy or Tammy sit there and check off the people as they come in and the classes that I attend. So I know there are records being turned in. Kind of thing. So that to me, it just says if we have a walking track only kind of thing, it could easily justify about $45, $50 a year. That you get that thing.
I wrote 50 the last time we were here.
Yeah, I wrote it on 4, so I didn't know which one.
So 50. The cheerleading.
And it should probably be 120 at like $10 a month.
That's what we're here to discuss. So,
I mean, that's a big jump and sometimes folks, you know.
yeah, those of us that are on
maybe it's
fixed
a big
income, it's groceries have gone up, our light bill's gone up, we're still on fixed income, Social Security been going up. I hear it all.
Yeah, you got a good raise this year,
They're projecting a good one this year.
or I meant for the current year, 21, 22. What, 21, the big raise? Look, but then it got washed out by insurance or something.
Yeah,
And we didn't get much.
I think last year was like $11.
It's like 7% or 5.5%.
Mine didn't go up much. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, mine
Just,
didn't
you know, I
either.
mean,
It was 7, I'm a big one, 7%.
Okay,
Anyway, I'll keep paying.
For those folks that I don't get their social security statement, I have to Google increase and estimate.
so, we got anywhere from $50 to $120, so it just, and that walking track was always paid in full. So if we go up to $120, you're gonna let them break it into payments. I don't think we need to
It's
be
an annual
involved in
fee.
that, but we just need, yes, an annual fee type thing. So,
I'm doing 50.
we get next year for second.
some of us have to advocate for the other team.
Well, it's a legitimate discussion because we have a lot of seniors that use that facility. And, I'm sorry, but with the cost of goods and services continuing to go up, in my mind, unnecessarily, but that's a different discussion for another day. We don't need to be hitting people harder than they need to be hit when they're trying to take care of themselves. I'm good for 50.
I am too, but being the devil's advocate, we're also having to pay people more to work there to keep it up. So, I mean, to me, that's the justification of why it has to be increased a little.
That's why we get all these corporate people to come in.
Like that.
All right.
Record, I'm for the old people in Carroll's, believe me.
The record reflect.
That is very so not true, Mr. Matney. Thank you very much. Making assumptions.
You know I'm busting your chops, Miss King. Talk about it when I leave here in a couple minutes. Well, amen.
Talk about it right now.
Let's just wait till he's in the hall talking.
Well, actually, you can go ahead and do that. It's 6:15 and I.
Y'all were good?
You have anything
It
with
was the
these?
senior award ceremony at the high school
Aw.
tonight, so.
All right.
I'm glad it's something inside.
Yep,
Or it's been canceled.
there you go.
Be safe.
Bye, have fun. I'm looking at this on my phone, I'm not just scrolling.
Well, it's after the news one, we ordered out water, steam.
The fees out of BDS, I'm not familiar enough really to say anything about those.
Did we, cultural center, did we want to get? Or is that be for another day as far as the makers market and those fees and whether it was $5 or $30, it's a one time for
I
each
thought
time
it
they
was
show up,
30.
or was it?
It's 30, and I think I sent a memo that kind of had,
Yeah, I think you did.
Yeah.
kind of includes some information on recreation stuff too. But it's one time, and they have it, it's once per event. They have events once a month. So it's $30 one time.
Each month.
Each time they attend.
Okay, okay.
Mr. Madden, we did talk about the sewer fee. Did we adjust that?
No, it hasn't been adjusted. You know, right now, our sewer fee is based off size, not usage. So it's for most, for the folks in Mauldin, it's a flat fee.
The monthly one?
I'm
No,
sorry, I was
tap
talking about
fee.
tap.
Tap fee, oh yes, the tap fee listed in there, it's
5, 10.
yeah, 15, and we're kind of in the middle if you compare it to some other places.
Okay.
One of the major differences with our tap fee is some places like they have a tap fee, it's like a apartment complex per door.
We have a tap fee, but no impact fee.
We don't have an impact.
Didn't we adjust that though, when the lady on North Main was looking at putting in apartments? I know she came to me and said it used to be this and now they're charging her something.
That was, I think that's Rewind, either Greenwood Water, I think the Greenwood Water may have a different type of setup. It was a complaint, but not necessarily the cities that. They probably call it, yeah.
Okay. But I mean, should an apartment have one tap fee like a home has, or should we have multiple?
I think that's, you know,
To me, it's per building almost. But then you've got one building that's 300 units in it. How do you distinguish that between 3 separate buildings with each having 10 units in it?
and, you know, resident, the apartment builder. Responsible for discussing that. Renters.
So we didn't do anything with that other than maybe PW to look at it next year.
We did not, change it from what was presented.
One thought is that council would like to do a enterprise fee study to look at all the fees and look at the city master capital improvement plan to see how it lines up, if the amount of money matches up with what you want to do every year. Rate study. I don't think the city has done a rate study in a while. Just do a rate study. Consultant come in and explain it, present some recommendations on what fees should be adjusted to. You probably out of sewer, so it's enterprise.
Yeah. On page 56, it was our tap fees $510 residential, 1,010 commercial, and Metro's residential was 1,100.
How much? City can put out an RFP and get some quotes. It will be $550. Say 5 up.
Five or four?
But it might be, I don't know, I just don't know. I could get some more comparables. mean, I'd be interested because if we did a rate study, we basically, if we chose to raise any rates, are we basically paying for the rate study? If it's my big.
One of the things I mentioned, I talked with the mayor from Greer, and then got David and Brandon, and David followed up with Andy, the city administrator over there. They do a development agreement on annexations, which basically they charge, if you would, an impact fee, and right, this between $2,000 and $2,500 for each house being annexed, and they're going to build 40 houses, it'd be $2,500 per house. And they only had one developer push back, and then after a few months, he came back and said, no, he's good with it. And we all know what happens to the fee, but they use that to take care of, some of their infrastructure, startup, like we talked, startup garbage can and things like that. So that would be an area that we could look at, and not call it an impact, we would call it development agreement. And David did confirm this week with Andy that they really only do it at annexation.
So if the properties are in the city limits.
Well, when they bring it to annexation, they said, well, we'll consider annexation. Here's what we expect you to pay. So your preliminary plat says you're going to put in 40 units, $25 for each unit you put in. So that's just another, whatever you want to call it, but that's another methodology they've used, and they said it's going over. Good.
Have they used it for very long?
It was implemented when Ed was there, so yes, been around for a few years.
Okay, so those adjustments, any other, so what'll come in and handle, tap fees remain the same, no addition of impact fees for sewer. Maybe specifically address.
Do you have any recommendations?
No, it's not mine. She's not a happy blusher. It's not really my realm of expertise to speak on that. Especially the permanent.
To your point, Mayor, though, I would not have an issue, not probably this late in the process, but looking at something like that for the future, because it can also help curb overdevelopment, having a development fee or impact fee or whatever it is. And we've talked about it a couple of times and not implementing one, but
Would you think we should look at increasing the tap fee? Anyone? I mean, to like $1,000. I mean, that's double, but it's in line with what everybody else. That's right. Rewa's 2,500. Greenville City's low, but Michael said they had an impact fee of like what, 1,500.
I have no problem with that.
I mean, I wonder when's the last time it was even looked at. And not since I've been, wow.
And even with that, I would say your categorically going up on food.
When do you make it effective? The house is already approved. The next time a new subdivision came in, new annexation or what? July 1st.
Right.
Just make it July 1st. You need tap fees after July 1st. Already building, expecting what his fees are going to be. That's what we flushed out.
Just based it off of his application.
Yeah. His application is submitted before July 1st.
I don't see any reason.
You would not?
I would.
Oh, okay.
I would. No reason that I wouldn't.
Wouldn't, yeah.
Yeah, double negative problem.
So then easy numbers, you could go to 1,000 for residential and 1,500 for commercial. And I'm just throwing numbers. It's 5, 10, and 1,000.
So the residential, is that it, like I'm gonna build a house? And a commercial is a commercial building, or is it for a developer to come in and build more houses?
Residential,
No,
she's saying, I don't think it's you, I think it's residential housing versus commercial property.
Right.
So residential neighborhoods would be
Like the new
This-
one, a
now
developer
500.
building a new
Residential.
neighborhood, residential would have to pay per house,
Right,
$1,000 tap fee.
right.
Okay. And then the commercials for commercial buildings,
Right.
1,500 for tap fee.
what are those fees on city that commercial?
Or
It's page 12. For fees.
They don't, they have-
page 50.
or-
Or
Do you have your April 14th? I have everything, but
I got
in the back seat of my car, yes.
I got April 8th.
The 14th. April 14th. I'm just looking stuff on my phone.
Mary had his separate, so I didn't know. I was looking for something separate, and I started digging through these, so
So were you saying 1,000 residential and
1,500.
15 commercial? I'm good with that. Based off of the application submitted. Do we have solids? Oh, that's.
One's grilled chicken and one's fried chicken, I think. Cindy's commercial is 1,500.
we did make the adjustment on the recycle roll part
Yes.
and then eliminate the other. That is 42. Remember in the back.
Oh, you got aware about being.
No, I ain't heard of the county tax rate.
I'll be right back.
What did we increase it to? Because,
40.
okay, the
Cover the
recycle,
It was covered the cost of
44, 45.
all right, wait. The recycle roll part was at $48.76. And then we talked about an increase,
It's increased
Then we took it to the same price,
to
maybe.
the price of the can.
65.
Still trying to find.
I don't
It
think
sounds familiar.
Yeah. From about
I thought it
2W.
said 50.
Yeah, because it's not quite as big as the garbage.
I think it was the, I think we put, is it language in the ordinance, just whatever the cost is for the can.
That's the
We
last
put
one that's possible.
We put 48.76, because that's what we pay right now.
That's right,
And then we put, they will automatically adjust each next month.
that's right. So it'll be whatever the cost to the city is. Just what the recycling can will be.
I don't remember that.
Whatever the cost of the city is at the time, because their costs increase.
And this year, we had to use 2 different suppliers
Yeah.
for one can.
Yeah. So there's language in the budget ordinance that says it will basically be whatever the city
So
pays.
if we had to get it from this supplier, it was costly, or your price would be
Yeah.
higher than what maybe your neighbor paid from the other lot.
But so the city's not, it's costly, the city's not making money off the cans.
So that's the.
So what is your,
Losing money.
We're not losing money.
What if they still have like 10 cans, but then they order more and they're more expensive and then.
Whatever the cans they get, the ones
Whatever they order.
they order them in bulk, and you may have some that going out, whatever the order.
So we don't really know then.
So you keep it.
Right now it's $48.
It's 48.76 what we have it right now.
We're really urging everybody to go to the big can and do away with the little bin because the silos are.
Yeah.
That is all of the city schedule that we'll do about. Anybody? Ones we'd like to look at.
Well, the recreation is why I had soccer. I just remember that. Soccer wasn't on the fees.
I did that, I added something.
Same as, I think it's the same.
I don't have the front where I added it, but I think it was the same as.
Jason on the line.
Everything is 80 except flag football and basketball and cheer.
I think it was the 80 number.
What we'll do is in the second council agenda packet, the second reading of the budget, include our lines fees. That way it's clear. Everything the council approved and discussed during the budget.
We don't do another public hearing.
We do for the fee, the pump station. To Pine Forest,
Yeah,
that we have to do a public hearing.
but we don't have to do another public hearing for the budget.
No.
Okay, good. Okay, today. We'll be sure.
Right, only one.
Okay, so the other items that have come up. Potentially look at increases, that was something that was common to me. Appropriate time to kick around it, we think this through year at a time, but
I think due to circumstances, I don't think now is a good time. Maybe a year to just, with talk of a recession, even though it may be a short one, and the inflation we're in right now, I don't think we need to start raising stuff on people.
I'm just throwing this out there for discussion, I'm not passionate for it, but also now, when basically everybody's getting hit with increases, they realize, all right, it's inevitable. So just another increase. Would you take less discussion by having an increase this year when everything else is going up? Or when everything else is going down, then we go up? Just
Well, you do
counterpoint
make
to
a
the
point
discussion, yeah.
Well, my deal is it's hard for me to support a millage increase unless we're doing it for a specific reason. If we're doing it because we have a project or Because as long as we continue to have a $1.4 million surplus, it's hard for me to tell somebody we're gonna raise your millage just because we're out of line with everybody else.
Well, so some people, some towns have added like a tax on goods, like a 1% tax on goods if they have a special project that needs to get done. You know, that might be something if we kind of get to a point where we have a special project we want to do it that way, a penny tax on.
I never support local option.
Well, you know,
I mean,
but it's easier to
Collective
get rid
understanding.
of that than it is to say, okay, well, we're gonna back off on the bill.
Well, that's voted on by the residents, so that's not something that we would decide, that's on the ballot. Local option,
Oh, look at sales tax.
yeah.
I mean, in terms of things like accommodations tax, all that stuff, we maxed out what we could do right there. Just to your point, Ms. King, what we did change last year, once we allocated a couple of $1 million to roads, we set up a separate fund to fund that. That was 3 mills, then I don't remember
The equivalent of two.
the equivalent of 2 mills off the surplus.
Right.
We were just
No,
budgeted
no,
out.
That's budgeted every year. 2 mills goes to the transportation fund. That's in the budget.
And again, I'm playing devil's advocate there. It's one that I do think if there was a desire to be more aggressive with road paving, that would be the appropriate way to handle it. Everybody knows that millage increased. And you've got a place where you can say, well, we're going to increase our road transportation fund to 5 mills, whatever that is.
Did I understand
The flexibility of getting.
From the regular budget, not from, yeah.
Did I understand that our transportation fund is not only road paving, it can also be sidewalks and also be stormwater? Right, all that's in transportation.
Well, anything related to maintaining the road or trail or greenway, able to improve the road, I guess stormwater falls into that. Good.
And while I thought it was the approach, I think it's a great action. 2 mills is only I'm sorry, 210,000. What is the
Roughly 100,000.
130, our mill's 130 something.
okay? So 260, 250. So all that's doing is saying we're applying $250,000 to rec pay. You know, that'll get you from about there to there.
And then what about any new trails we want to do? How are we gonna fund them?
Are we saying that's part of the transportation fund?
Yeah.
Like, if we've gotten the numbers back from the study,
Yes. Recreation.
okay, cool.
And that's not to say I'm an advocate for raising the millage, but I can also I am an advocate for planning what we know is an issue with the city, and that is roads, stormwater.
And like I said, yeah. If there was a particular reason that we were doing it, then that's one thing, but just to raise it.
Our growth has been funding our increase. Our personnel costs haven't gone down any year.
Absolutely.
So next year may be a struggle depending on which financial advisor you listen to or talk to or subscribe to. Next year is going to be tough.
You say that, but we really don't have a lot of debt and well, we added some, but we haven't comparable to, I mean, I think we're very conservative.
Well, like H&A, we
roughly $350,000 a year is committed in H&A to pay debt. That's a rough round number, somewhere in there. And if H&A, if we get into a recession, something historically H&A would be the one that takes the biggest hit. Yeah, everybody else, I won't say everybody, a lot of people got hit as we came through COVID. We didn't. So we sailed through there because most of our H is drive-through pickup. So we dodged the bullet, if you would. Bad acronym.
So I think back to the point, if there's a desire from council to pick a number 5 mills to paving or to the transportation fund. Yeah. I'm making up numbers, obviously, but 5 mils would be the equivalent of for the average house. Less than $20.
Which would generate us roughly $600,000.
But if you commit it to that, then that's what it's for, right? If you commit it to road paving.
Correct.
So
That would be a two-step process. We could increase the millage, which comes in the general fund, then we could adjust the percentages we want to take, make it go in transportation fund or whatever. You know, I think we're making really good progress on our road paving. Of course, part of it was the big hit that we took, kind of thing. Yeah, but, you know, if I compare our city streets overall to county and state, we've come a long way, just like we did the sewer fund.
Well, I think that we've committed ourselves to a lot of things. And like you said, you're really concerned about next year. So. Yeah, I think at some point, we're gonna have to raise the millage.
What concerns you about next year?
Capital. Planning that we can push on the spreadsheet to next year's capital. I think it was almost 5 or 6 million.
It was 11 million, but part of that.
Was ARPA, right?
Right, that's correct.
What's the cost for paving the trail? Per month? About 500,000. 500,000 per mile. This is an estimate.
But the most recent trail, the quarter mile across from Mauldin High is over 300,000.
So that alone, if we're talking about developing a trail system, not that I expect it to be completely paved, connecting from Greenville all the way to the bridge by that. That's a significant capital project.
And that's on top of scheduled crash trucks, scheduled sewer trucks, scheduled fire departments.
Police, fleet.
Oh, that's planned now. We'll complete the police 52 units through.
But you gotta start your rotation every 4 years, replenishing.
Gas isn't going down. I heard it's gonna be a lot more than August.
That's
I don't
what
know
diesel
how true
fuel
it is.
Go down 10 cents in 2 days, and Anderson had budged here.
Because y'all closer to station, a refill station down there in Belton.
Belton.
That's fine.
I agree. I think at some point, and we've been doing it now for, is it 12, 14 years? We have not had a millage increase.
Fucking like somebody teacher.
Was it the first year Holly came on board, we increased millage?
Pretty close. What'd you say? It was pretty dang close.
I'm never gonna do that again. We'll figure out everything we have to.
That was the pay as you throw. Wanna go through that one again? Even though that generates more money than.
That is true. I think they were great. But you know what?
They were yelling.
Were they yelling?
Yeah.
Only one source for them, too. Rumor had it. But anyway, I don't guess we're gonna gain the traction of millage next year. 'Cause I guess whatever millage we approve goes on the books, and then you don't collect it until March, April next year, right? Goes against homes, the bulk of it. Yeah, and I don't have a crystal ball, but if there's gonna be a recession or a turn down, from what little information I trust, it will happen next year. If the turn down happens exactly the same time, they will have to pay their, with the millage increase, that'd be a tough. Especially us old people on the big income,
That's right, even though we got that little pittance for a raise.
need y'all to keep working to pay your social security.
Quick question. Millage raise does not increase with people using the homestead exemption. Is that correct or not?
That's correct. Incorrect. It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yes.
50,000.
They're only, yep. They're only exempted the first 50,000 of their house price.
Thank you.
Welcome, Jason.
He's
I've
been
been listening. It's been a very, very, very rough week for me. And then I found out, if you all didn't hear, I found out I was exposed to somebody with COVID all week in a room. So figured I'd leave you all there by yourselves.
I was more concerned that I heard your voice in my head.
I'm sorry.
I said, I was just concerned I heard your voice in my head. I didn't know you had joined us.
So if we do it this year, they don't fill it until you're out. Is that what you're saying?
Their tax notice would go out
In October.
in October, so yeah, that would be billed this year. They historically don't have to pay until March 1st.
Really?
No, it's,
Is it sooner than that?
January,
15?
something.
15.
Okay, 50.
For first month.
First month, okay, so yeah, that'd be hit January 50. But you're talking $100,000 house. Based on the number Michael threw out, $20, is that what y'all did?
I believe it was $4 a mil for $100,000 house. So I think, do you remember?
I
Or so the
It's
city of
allowed
Mauldin,
for $1,000.
all this house we got is $250,000.
I don't know, I just think it'd be worth looking at. I mean, I know fees are a tax as well, but the dollars that you can bring in with like a public works fee versus a millage raise. Something willing to bet you could probably bring in twice the revenue doing that. I don't know. Depends on
I think
what
that
the
would
fee
be
is.
more harmful to the elderly though than the millage increase. Because if they're exempted on the first 50,000, then
Impact fee only hits you if you're moving in here, right? Building a new house, so that kind of impact fee you're talking about.
No, I'm talking just, I don't know what I'm talking, just some type of public works sanitation type fee. Or that will be under, I guess those on your tax bill.
So everybody would be good for that.
Yes.
Homeowner would.
Yes.
If you only receive, service. Sanitation service.
So small townhome complexes would not be hit because anything over 8 units, we don't service Trash pickup, right? When that was-
I think we have a breakdown of what
Yeah.
those fees are, but
I know the
Other
Middle Road
cities.
Townhouse is one of us we went through a year or so ago, arguing with the guy out there, but
right.
we wouldn't want to take his cans up before, we couldn't back up the driveway because it was unsafe coming off Middle Road.
He had to put his cans on the street.
Yeah.
Individual homes.
I think about the woman who lives over here behind the cultural center, by the cultural center. Who just had her roof redone after it leaked for 16 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And adding a sanitation fee to someone like that.
I don't know. The lowest millage and no fees. We're the only city in Greenville County, lowest sewer. Yep, we're the only city in Greenville County that have lowest millage and no fees. The lowest sewer.
True. It's inevitable,
That's why,
inevitable.
yeah, I think so.
Well, so the thing is that with a fee, you don't really know who lives in the home. If the elderly person dies or moves to a nursing home and the house is sold or their kids move in or whatever. And who's gonna keep track of all that to know, okay, well, you know, the elderly aren't gonna be charged a fee or something like that, so.
It's still, it would go on the tax bill, so however the tax, I mean, it's a 4% property or 6% property, whoever owns the home.
What I'd like to see is the fact that where we're at is where we're at right now. I'd like to move forward, but I would like finance and the other departments to take it up discussion and but that actually be part of the next budget cycle when you start knowing we've agreed we are going to do this, whatever these are.
And I'm not saying that's what we need to do, I'm just saying it'd be worth looking at the revenue that would be brought in for each option. And then go from there.
It's all about the money anyway. That's what next door says. It's all about the money.
Oh, yeah,
That's
I know.
It's all about the tax dollars.
Hey, I know, people are paying us to say certain things, yeah.
Trying to read it. Don't need anything any more stressful in my life.
Yeah, when you stop on the side and say, I saw that. I don't read that easy. So I tend to look at it just while I sleep better at night. I made that point.
Okay, so am I gauging that this will be a discussion for next year, not this?
I think it needs to start before May of budget cycle.
I would agree.
Can it start before,
Like-
It needs to start like
January?
Yeah.
Before
It needs
January?
to start like November, December.
So I know what to put
Exactly.
in the budget?
Yeah.
I'd like to see the convenience taken up that early.
Then we'll have probably more concrete numbers to look at. Right, because, you know, I mean,
Project.
as far as like millage and how much. The price of what it would end up costing someone potentially.
See, maybe part of those 4,700 homes will be online. Maybe part of those 4,700 homes will be online and occupied.
They're a 2-year rotation, because the first year they won't,
That's right.
it'll be the second year out.
That goes back to what Mr. Craylon was talking about too.
What's that?
Mr. Craylon, would you like to refresh our memory? If you're on there, because I know.
Are you referring about a fee for welcome to Mauldin?
Yes.
Sorry.
So, I mean, so the concept was that is that when somebody builds a new house, moves in, that we may not see any of the revenue for the services they get for a year, 2 years, whatever that is. So can we have a fee, first time house registers with the city that helps cover, beyond just, they get the trash can, the recycling can, and then an additional fee that helps cover some of the costs that they incur until we actually receive some revenue to help pay for those services. instead of basically reducing services on the rest of the residents, because we added 3,000 houses. Do we need that extra police officer or whatever it is? Something to help balance that out. Not saying we have to cover everything, but just something to help with that. And only to the new people, new homes that are being built. That was the idea.
Something that I think was discussed prior to you coming on. The mayor was talking about the city of Greer doing a impact fee or development fee, $2,000 per house.
The development agreement. It was,
And that would go to the builder.
no, he pays it to
The city.
the city.
Right, but then of course the homeowner would end up paying the builder to make the difference, but it was at the builder level. And we currently have a hookup fee now, but I don't remember off the top of my head what that is.
Sewer tap fee or,
Well, the hookup to the sewer and water.
yeah, $510
Pardon?
for the sewer if we've got it. The water is Greenville water fee and gas is FEMA natural gas.
Right. So I don't recall what the hookup fees are. I mean, what we get, I'm just looking at, when we put a new house, we build a new house, what is the impact of the city? And are we reducing services to people that have been paying taxes because we have to wait for that additional fee to come in? So is there some way to offset that? I don't know where it all balances out. Right, is it part of the hookup? Should we maybe have a fee? You come in, you get your trash cans first time, your trash can, your recycling can, and is there something there we can get just to help balance until we start receiving their rates, the money that we get from them.
They already have to come in and buy their trash cans.
Right, but we don't, it's not, I'm saying those costs, let's say trash can and the recycling can, just for the sake of argument, it's $100. But if we come in the first time you come register your house with the city, you get your trash cans, your recycling cans, and we're going to charge you $300. That $200, does that help cover the $25, $35 a month fee that we're actually costs the city to pick up their trash until we actually receive money from them? That's the idea behind that. Right, because right now we could be paying that fee to pick up their trash and police their new streets, and we haven't received any funds from them. That's all.
Okay. Do we want to address or talk about back to the development fee or just move on?
I think it's one of the things that David needs to be in that discussion, your committee, and see what he thinks. It takes more than just what I knew about it and what Rick told me over lunch kind of thing. That's why I got David in touch with Andy.
Is that something, Brandon, that would have to be part of the budget process, or is that something that could be, if we decided that that's what we wanted to do, could we do that mid-year?
Yeah, you do that, and you do that,
You would
next
just,
council meeting. I mean, it would just be a development agreement with the developer.
I think
another fee.
The tricky thing would be, it sounds like this is per developer. I think that's a tricky.
Per-
with that.
Yeah, per,
And
it's a lot of land that he's doing. They're doing it annexation time.
So when you're voting on annexation, as part of that,
He has
you
agreed to
have
the development
48
agreement,
homes at right.
or it wouldn't even appear on the docket to be considered for annexation until you have agreed the development agreement.
I think what I was looking at is making sure that the development agreement is standardized. So in other words, developer A comes in with 40 homes and the development agreement is $50,000. Developer B comes in and you don't like what he's doing, so you're talking about $100,000, whatever that is. So
It has to be X amount per.
X amount per lot,
Yeah.
the way I understood it.
okay,
But I think, all that need to be fleshed out by David and all.
Brandon too.
For 39 days or whatever it is. I had started the official countdown.
Well, I was saying Brandon too.
Hmm.
The next
Good
one.
luck with that.
Okay,
They made him break the mold. It's like when I talk about you when you're sitting in the room.
good, I hope you do, because hearing caused me a lot of frustration. Thank you.
We know where he lives, though.
For now.
I know where he jogs now too. I passed him a couple
Oh, I
of
see.
days.
Oh.
I'm sorry, I didn't even throw that out there, sorry.
Have you always jogged?
Sorry.
Are there sidewalks where you drive?
Keeps that shape without-
Oh, you're in the road.
Sometimes,
Why do you say that?
My bad.
sorry.
So where we're at now, then we've talked about, I mean, unless there are any other concerns with that, the only other thing I had on that we had discussed was going to be chamber finance. How we want to.
We know how I feel about it. But now that, administrators leaving and we're looking at interims or whatever. Replacements or whatever. Potential costs associated. I don't know. I think that.
Remind me how you thought about it originally.
Okay, so, I just, after looking at all of this, there, especially, you know, their tax returns and whatever, there was stuff that just wasn't clear to me about, kind of where money was spent, and then some of the functions they may have had that were fundraisers that didn't show up in here, and, 2020, um, 2019 chamber activities, $21,187. Okay, but then you go to 2020 when everything was shut down, and I think their chamber activities were $32,834. So they went up $11,000 for chamber activities when 2020 was pretty shut down. I don't know, I just wondered if for the amount of money that they're asking for, if there's ways that they can cut some of these expenses. And what other fundraising functions do they have besides the golfing? The oyster roast? But that's not listed in here. So we don't know how much the oyster roast made or lost.
For 2 years.
Last year before that.
Okay, so we don't,
The other shrimps and stuff,
Down there at.
recreation group, or some sports group had a oyster roast out back. But it wasn't chambers.
And the chamber's first one was down there where
it was in 2020, out in the outside.
September of 2020, it was in the fall.
Yes.
And then they did the one last year, yes, so they sent it to you.
Yes, so the one for 2020 is not listed, and so that was a concern to me, is if you've got only the golf tournament as being one of your fundraising events, and there are no other fundraising events in here. That was kind of concerning to me, it's like, okay, so,
One of the things I thought we said after one of our meetings was that economic development is going to reach the chamber and ask for the information we wanted. We know that, and any member did that.
So she reached out to.
I mean, that's one of my concerns is, if we have concerns about what they're reporting or what we want from them, we need to make sure they know what we need to Like, what do they need to provide to us so that we can make a decision on it? Because I agree. I mean, if it were me, I wouldn't come saying we want to hire a part-time job because the city's not in the business of funding their employees. Which they can move money around and shift things and do things. I would much rather it be toward a project or something of significance than hiring an employee. But I want to make sure that the chamber knows what we're asking for so that they can provide it.
And to that, this is not the first year they were asked for it. So the one we got the very first year was asked for was less information than what you got this year. And there's still questions there. So it's not. I find it hard to believe you don't understand, just like you didn't understand our budget cycle. That was explained several times. They still waited to the very last minute to come in to make the thing. And make a promise. We have somebody at the council meeting to give their update. May was a no-show. No one showed up. At 10 o'clock that morning, we got a notice from Kim, these are our activities. That's it. So, and the request was for someone to do their bookkeeping. Well, they've been doing it for all the years they've been in existence with Kim. And there's my rub, and I love her to death. I do. But there's things going on right now that I have to pocket for a while, out of pocket meaning not available for a while, I think. And she's carrying members that she's maintaining their membership in the chamber, but they didn't have to pay their annual dues.
Why is that fair to the other members?
That's a good question. And so I don't know, she just was telling me this confused me with relay of information to me. And, it's just, I made it clear last time I felt it's just, I've seen no growth other than ribbon cuttings. And that was only what that was about. After hours, I think it was one today, little stories they put on kind of thing. And if you go to them, it's the same people. It's not like it's a huge number of members you don't see very often. Then they show up and there they are. And you are making contacts in and exchanging business cards and business to business kind of introductions. And that's not really happening. We had 2 ribbon cuttings this week. Well, one was the Carolina Foothills Federal Credit Union, which we'd already had the groundbreaking. But we had the official ribbon cutting there type thing. And then Minnie Robinson opened her little shop there and yesterday or the day before. And a great hallway of different independent contractors that are in there and just some fantastic services that's in that area type thing. And many put on quite a little spread, if you would, as far as that, and just introduced to a pastry chef. I didn't even know she's located on Middle Road. It's just people that cook good and have artistic abilities to make them gorgeous. The creations they had just was wonderful. But the contacts there won't be another one. It just, stuff. Zero.
Well, I wonder too about time management. So, if the daily duties can be done differently or whatever, so that you can free up some time to do these other little, bookkeeping and things. I don't know. I was, the night that they did show up and their treasurer came, I was kind of expecting for her to give us an overview kind of their books or whatever. And she just basically introduced herself and done it on pat. And I thought,
Well, to his point, I'm like, I don't want to done for something that if they were clear, that's what we wanted. Then certainly don't want that to get some either. I think that obviously the consensus is not to find that. So then there's two or three other options. Funding increase at all. Some quasi increase, be it 7,500, and I think I threw out last time 5,000 or it's, if everybody is on board with funding increase, then that's where we go. If there's some thought to maintaining a strong relationship there and seeing the value that they do bring, then we should talk what that means with conditions of, hey, we're increasing it by name a number 5,000, and here's what we expect.
Any amount you consider, to what I've been told, is coming out of unassigned general funds. So you're taking it out of your savings account, the revenue's not going to cover it. That's been maxed out from two financial gurus. So you're going to not have to see any growth from my standpoint, and and I fought for years to not use unassigned general funds to balance the budget. Didn't like the concept, didn't agree with the concept, but who knows the concept. And we're going to go back to that even for a small amount.
But to your point, I think it's our responsibility to let the chamber know these are our expectations. And, you know, if you're wanting the city to include you in our budget with a budget line, then you have to come to us with, well, we expect A, B, and C. And once we get that, then you need to approach the administrator in what, January?
Did we not tell them that 2 years ago?
Well, I don't think we've ever said, I mean, put it in writing, this is what we want, and then when they don't do it, you can say, well, you know, we kindly asked you when we were making our considerations that these were our expectations. We as a council have goals on an annual basis, and these were our expectations of your organization, and you didn't meet your expectations.
So, so would you want the staff to send out, when we do a budget call for department heads, put out a formal budget call to all outside agencies, include the chamber, like a formal?
I'm not sure if we need to do, I think my point is if we're, and I'm okay with not funding it, I understand completely with what you're saying, and I actually agree, but I think it's our responsibility to let them know why we're not. And I think there's multiple reasons, but to be considered in the future, then these are the things that we would like to see, and these are our expectations. If you don't know what you don't know. And if it's in writing versus just, you know, someone verbally saying you got to do more than ribbon cuttings, well,
Yeah.
what does that look like? What does that mean?
My perspective is I am totally fine with not funding anything this year. But I do think that we need to improve communications with the Chamber of Commerce. Because if we don't have it going out like you're suggesting, and we may have suggested or may have said, please come to our meetings, but even if they were come to our meetings, I think back to the one that the gentleman came in April, is the feedback that he gave us actually what we were wanting to hear? If it wasn't, we need to tell him so that he knows what feedback we want to hear. And I'm all about setting goals. If there's a membership goal that we want them to achieve, let's put it in there so that next year, if they hit that membership goal, fine. That increases your level or whatever they do, whatever types of goals we want to set.
You know, and I guess if I was asked multiple years, what is the breakdown of your membership in city and out of city? If that question came up just about every time I saw you or every year, I would have caught on that I need to have those numbers available. And they're never been available until we asked the question, and then to the point that we pushed that you we won't see the numbers, and then we finally get the numbers, and they were still not documented, they were fudged kind of thing. That's what, so,
I think they were just
you know,
estimating.
there's a way of asking without putting it in writing, and you kind of pick up on it. I was part of the Leadership Golden Strip class a couple of years ago, and we spent a lot of time together, all three communities, all three chambers, and we talked about things. We met with the Greenville Chamber and the way they're segmented. It's not a fair comparison because they're huge and things like that. But some of the things that we were doing, some of the things we tried to do with leadership training, startup, how to start a business, and here's some resources available to you. It's kind of like the acronym, don't wait 16 years and have your roof leaking. For 16 years, there've been agencies that could have fixed it. So we kind of said that up front in the leadership kind of thing. We had two people that did reach out to them and say, let's sponsor this and we'll do it with you guys and things like that. And it doesn't get done because it has to be done by one person or it's not going to be done in that chamber. And that's the problem. There's been no growth. And I think if Kim's there, I think she could have grown more. The board could have grown more into doing things. And that's been communicated over a lot of bus rides we had together. We just talked about different things among all three chambers and things like that in the leadership group. So, yeah, I think Pat is a lovely lady and a smart lady. So I don't think she would have missed what was being laid out that we'd like to see our chamber grow and expand in their offerings. Go to one of these, if you're available, go to one of these. I think we have one next week, this lead group that meeting at noon on Wednesday or something like that. Go to them. No, go to at least two of them. And you tell me what you see. I don't know.
Okay. I think there's consensus here. That was all that I had. That was the last thing I had for questions or anything else that members would like to discuss. All right. Staff understands the things that we and I guess always challenging. It's fairly easy for us to make decisions on. It's up to this and
Hard work and dedication.
Anything else? All right, 7:18, you stand adjourned.